Welcome to the Attack the Rack podcast. I am your host, Curtis Leslie, and you are tuning in to the number one rated podcast on the planet. We have a great show today. We have basketball coach Dan Van Hekken in the studio. Coach Van Hekken is a long-time varsity girls basketball coach at Hamilton High School in West Michigan. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a program. Coach Van Hekken was very successful at building a program from not being so good to taking his program all the way to an elite level in the state of Michigan. Please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share. Before we dive into this conversation with Coach Dan Van Hekken, I need to first shout out today's sponsor. The sponsor of the program today is snow. I want you to pause this podcast right now. Look outside. Do you see snow? If you do, you are lucky. If you do not, you need to go get some snow. Snow is an amazing product. It's so easy on the eyes. Brings so much joy and happiness around the holidays. Again, if you don't have snow, you need to go get some. All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Attack the Rack podcast. We have another great show for you today. Joining the program, another local coach here in West Michigan. Actually, former coach. First former coach we've had on the program. Along with our other guests that we've had so far, we've had two. He shares something in common with the other two guests we had. Today we have Dan Van Hekken. He is a teacher at Hamilton High School, middle school, in the phys ed department. A longtime girls basketball coach there. And as I was saying, like the previous couple guests we had here, Jeff Carlson and Ryan Klingler, Dan Van Hekken also played high school basketball at Holland High School and also played college basketball at Hope College. Dan, we have right now in the background here, we're watching as we're chatting, a classic game from Holland High School from your senior year, 1993, 1994, magical season for the Dutch. Probably, maybe you could say the year before that is when the run of really, really good Holland High School teams started. Your team here in this game we were watching, a regional final game, upset number one ranked Ottawa Hills in the regional final. Then you guys went on and played a heck of a game. Came up just a touch short in the quarterfinal, losing to Flint Northern, which featured Mateen, Cleeves, and Antonio Smith and Robert Smith. Dan, I would say that this team, probably the best team that our local area, I'm not going to say all of West Michigan, but here in the Lakeshore, probably the best team we've seen. Certainly there were some other great teams. There was a Zeeland East team that went to the state finals, West Ottawa team that went to the state finals, and a Holland High School team that went 20-0. Unfortunately, didn't make it out of the districts that year. But Dan, what was it like, playing on this team here? This is, again, 1993, 1994 regional final game.
First off, thanks for having me. Second of all, this is definitely making me feel old. And when you say former coach and 93, 94, and I'm looking at the crowd and some of the the clothes that they're wearing. It's definitely aging us a little bit, but it brings back a lot of good memories. It was a team where, yes, we had some success on the court, and I think like everything ages a little bit, and maybe people are, again, 93, 94 is a while ago, and maybe people don't necessarily remember us, or, the younger generation doesn't know this team, but we had a lot of great memories, and I think we put Holland basketball on the map for a very long time. And I think this team and this run left its mark with the future players for a while. As we're looking, we didn't have, that 6'8" monster on the court at all. We were all 6 foot to 6'4", but we gelled as a team, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and I was just a young buck back then watching from the crowd, but it was a lot of fun, magical season.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was saying, Dan, the previous two guests I had, Ryan Klingler, Jeff Carlson, also played at Holland High School. Something that I kind of had in common with them as well, playing at Holland High School. We played for Coach Mark Worley,
Mm-hmm.
who is certainly a legend in the area. When you were playing, you didn't play for Coach Worley, but you did end up coaching with him a little bit. Well, you did play for him as
JV.
a JV player.
JV level.
Right.
I played for Coach Worley. Yes.
And then early on in your coaching career, coached under him.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So Dan, after graduating Holland High School, you then went on and played collegiate basketball.
Yes.
Talk about that journey.
So basketball was kind of my world as a high schooler. Ended up going to Concordia College in Ann Arbor my freshman year. Didn't know much about the school, didn't know what I wanted to do as a career, but my buddy Dustin Price was also going there for basketball, and I think it was a kind of a recruiting trip for him, and I went along with him, and it was more of, oh, I can play basketball here? Sure, I'll go. And we both kind of ended up doing that together. I played for a year there, and then ended up transferring back to Hope College, and then finished 3 years playing there.
Right. And had a lot of success there as a player as well.
Yeah. Similar to high school success on the court, we my first year there as a sophomore, we ended up going to the national championship and lost in the national championship. My junior year, we went to the Sweet 16, and then senior year, again, made it back to the national championship and lost again. But man, those runs in the national championship, the excitement that the Hope College community brings, and how they travel, those were some really fond memories of just being part of that, being part of the team and the community. I still remember those games as well, like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and then you didn't get right into your role as the varsity girls coach at Hamilton. Mm-hmm. You had a couple other coaching gigs.
Yeah.
Prior to that, so you graduated in 98, 99?
Yeah, took an extra year of school, but 99.
Yep.
Graduated in 99, and then had a teaching job the next year in Hamilton. So I've been there my whole career, and I think you're going to ask about the prior to the girls season. So I did, 3 or 4 years of lower level boys basketball, freshman, and some JV in Hamilton as well. And I guess if we're backing up, during my student teaching, I think you mentioned this with Coach Worley at Holland, kind of a, not really grad assistant, but I was still in school finishing up, and did kind of an assistant role there. So.
All right. And then how did it all come about? getting this job,
Yep.
which ended up turning into, 16 years of it or so?
17,
17 years
So
coaching girls basketball.
Jerry Haggerty, our athletic director at the time, will take full credit for this. I still remember this day like it was yesterday as well. I was teaching at the middle school. I was on my planning, so I was in my office, and he walks in, and he pretty much proposed, we need a girls varsity basketball coach. And I had never even thought of coaching girls ever. Wasn't on my radar. So I told him I need overnight to think about this, and kind of went home and thought about it. And the next day I told him, yeah, I'll do it. And to be honest with you, I still was skeptical of coaching girls, but I think because it was a varsity team, I said, let's go for it. And never really turned back, and ended up just really loving it. So
Yeah,
that's how that started.
Yeah, and the main topic we're going to get into today is building a program, which obviously you had success with at Hamilton, taking it from some pretty humble beginnings to your last season there. You went to the state semifinals. So let's kind of talk about building a program, what you did there, things that worked, didn't work. When you took over the job, what was the state of Hamilton girls basketball?
I believe the last year before, I think they went. I don't think they won a game that year. I think the coach was there for 2 or 3 years, and then moved on, and that's kind of when Mr. Jerry Haggerty approached me. But I believe the year before that they were winless. So again, I didn't know much about the program. I knew that part. I knew they weren't very good. Obviously, I asked questions of, the JV team and the freshman team and what was coming up, but that was kind of the state. It was a pretty bad program, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. And then let's talk a little bit about your very first season. Well, first of all, how did that first season go?
We finished 3-18. I was still a very young coach, and I think all new coaches think, well, I can change this, and I can turn it around, and that's true, and I think that's a good attitude to have. And I know, from being around Coach Worley, learned a ton from him, and really wanted to emulate that program to very much what he was doing. So, but learned I had to slow my roll a little bit. And after 3-18 and some very defeating games, we had 8 players that year. 3-18 was my first varsity season.
All right, and then when did you finally start to kind of get over the 500 mark? When did you have your first winning season?
The next year we were 11-10 and just kind of got over 500. Still weren't very good, but obviously had a year of summer stuff. Started incorporating some more summer things. I don't think they did much of that before that. Started getting my hand in, some of the youth program, and just being more of a staple, being more of a presence in the program.
Okay.
So I think some excitement started brewing.
So early on, you kind of got the ball rolling. Got involved more in the off-season stuff, which is pretty important when you're building a program. Obviously, you saw that with Coach Worley. That's a good model for that. And started. What kind of stuff would you do in the summer? When you say summer stuff, what kind of stuff?
So obviously, we, you try to it's got to be a balance. Being at a smaller school in Hamilton, you had to share athletes. We have to share athletes. At that time, I know volleyball team was pretty good, and they did a little bit of summer stuff as well. So there has to be a balance. But we would go to the team scrimmages, team camps. We started doing some small person work or small group workouts, individual workouts. Anybody that wanted it in the gym, I made myself available. Come in and shoot and just kind of do individual or small group workouts.
Was there a moment early on, maybe in those first couple of years, after getting your hands in some of the off-season stuff, where you were like, okay, this is working. We can be successful here. Was there a certain maybe moment early on where that stood out to you, or like, all right, we're doing the right things, we're gonna get it rolling? Maybe a group that you had,
I think
team you had.
I think anytime a team or a program comes together, I think the stars need to align a little bit. I mean, you can have a very creative coach or somebody that puts in a lot of time, but obviously you have to have players too. So that's kind of what I mean by the stars have to align. And I think after about my third year, we got a group that kind of came through that bought in to some of the stuff that we were doing. They were a little more athletic than the previous groups, and I started seeing some more time in the gym with those groups. So all those things kind of meshed and kind of raised the bar, so to speak, for our program. And I think, and I always look back to, I think I give credit to the group. I think it was my third varsity team. They really bought into kind of the team chemistry. Off the court, they were doing stuff together that no other team had previously done, and there was just, I don't know, it was just an energy which made everything just seem a little better, with excitement. I mean, their attitude at the youth Saturday clinics, they were there with spirit and enthusiasm, and practices were more competitive and enthusiastic. And so I look back at that group, and I think that group kind of just set the bar for some of those off the court type things, and some of that kind of just stayed with us throughout my whole career. So.
And then you mentioned your varsity players getting excited about helping out with the youth stuff. Obviously that is something that is key to building a program, starting working with the players when they're young. For a first year coach trying to take over a program, trying to build a program in regards to the youth aspect of the program, what are some things that you would, some advice you would give to that first year coach who's trying to build a program in regards to just, with the youth stuff?
Have your players there. Obviously it's a lot of this is about relationships, and that's just another way for you and your players to see each other in a different light, and kind of learn, more of their personality. They see how much time and effort you're putting in. So I think that's a mutual respect there. So I definitely would tell a first year coach to get your players at the camps. You can't do it by yourself. And to be honest, third, fourth graders, they don't want to see you anyways. They want to see the varsity athletes. So when they're visible, and my goodness, you have parents there and seeing your whole team there and working hard with the youth, I think that says a lot. And again, I think it's a respect thing, and it just and overall, just I guess a sense of pride too. And I wouldn't pay the girls. I'd bring them donuts, and they would. It's hard every Saturday after Friday night games to get there early, but I think what they got out of it was worth it for them. I know it was tough to get high school girls or boys to 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Saturday morning camp, but once they got going and they saw the smiles that they were giving these youth kids, it's worth it. And then The other thing is, um, if you do it right with your camps and start using same terms and drills, even obviously appropriate drills, but that your varsity kids are hearing and seeing on a daily basis, and if you can kind of, you know, have some commonalities between your youth program and your varsity program, now it's a lot easier for your varsity kids to teach it. Your youth are hearing it from third grade on up, and obviously that improves your program as a whole, um, indirectly but directly once I get to the high school level. So
Yeah, so it kind of helps out twofold. I mean, your current players that you have playing for you get a lot out of it, and then obviously the youth players are, um, like at the third grade level, they're just getting introduced to the game, but they're learning skills, and um, and you mentioned too, like the the youth, the little kids, they're you know um, bright eyed when they see the players. And
mhm,
as we're talking about that, and we're watching this game in the background here from the 93-94 Holland High School team, as you're talking about that,
mhm,
I just saw Matt Haven going for a layup.
mhm,
And I remember being a young kid going to Holland High basketball camp,
mhm,
and yeah, I remember Matt Haven being there, and it's like, oh
mhm.
wow, there's Matt Haven, and then
Yeah, and then
Mark Reed, and
yeah,
no offense to you, Dan, but I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Kind of like my previous two guests, Dan and I do go way back. In fact, we go all the way back to probably the second I was born, as we are cousins.
yes,
Um, so I've known each other all our lives. Also did spend 5 years coaching with Dan as well, so pretty familiar with kind of what we're talking about. Um, as we continue on. All right, so that's kind of like youth stuff, and with the youth stuff too, you want to obviously you want to get the kids excited about basketball
mhm,
too. So
mhm,
you probably want to have some sort of mix of fun and skill
mhm.
development.
Yeah.
Um, and then as far as once you get a little bit older, you get into that middle school, the ninth grade JV level. What are you kind of looking for from those levels, from the coaches that coach those
Mhm,
teams, in order to um, once those players get to you at the varsity level,
mhm.
where are you hoping they're at?
That's those are tough years. I think those years are huge as far as kind of sustaining your program in a way where you want you want the depth. You want numbers at your freshman JV level. We found, there's a couple instances where there's a sixth, seventh man on the freshman and JV teams that even become contributing varsity players. Um, you don't want to end up really begging or scrapping for kids to try out for varsity because your numbers were so low. So it became more of a challenge the later in my career where this instant gratification, like if a kid's not starting at the freshman JV level, we found that more and more kids were kind of like whether it was specializing in another sport, they weren't getting that satisfaction. It was harder for them to just be part of the team. Um, and that's really tough for a freshman and JV coach sometimes because a lot of times those coaches are newer, and they maybe don't see the big picture. So trying to make it a good experience for freshmen and JV kids is tough. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here because there's a lot of factors. Um, but our freshman and JV teams were very important, and I know from year to year, sometimes you had a competitive team, sometimes a little bit weaker team. So there was years where if we had a more competitive JV team, we were able to do some more co-practices between JV and varsity teams, and sometimes if you have a freshman competitive team, you can do some freshman and JV teams, and I think that was very helpful in those years because I think it keeps those lower level kids more motivated to see what's next. if they had that competitive drive and they wanted to continue with basketball. So it's a challenge for freshmen and JV and even some middle school teams to kind of keep teams cohesive as well. Just different personalities, maybe some immaturity, and then teaching basketball. So
now, if you are a young coach and you're starting out and you're excited to join a program and you're coaching that ninth grade team or that JV team or even a middle school team, what advice from a varsity coach's perspective, what are you looking to see out of those younger, lower level coaches? Obviously you mentioned giving them the players a good experience, but what about more from just as a program as a whole, like getting involved and what if you're like I said, if you're a young coach coaching middle school, freshman, JV, and you want to really help build the program, what would you advise these younger coaches to do to really help?
Well, first and foremost, I would advise them to, if they can, if it works out, hang out at varsity practices. Be around the varsity team, be around the varsity coach, so you are learning. And on the reverse part of that, hopefully the varsity coach has implemented a program, X's and O's wise systems that they would want the freshman and JV coaches to do. Whether it's building blocks, it doesn't have to necessarily replicate what the varsity is doing, but at least there's some building blocks in place. I would love, we would always have the middle school teams and coaches come and watch a varsity practice or two during the season, and I think that was so beneficial for, obviously it was fun for the kids to see a varsity practice, but for our middle school coaches to see what we're doing. And we're not just telling them, it's just not X's and O's on paper. It's no, this is what we are actually doing, and this is why it's important for you to teach kind of what we're giving you as building blocks at the middle school level. So I think that was really cool for middle school coaches to kind of see the end game of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think too that's great in the aspect for the middle school player as well, to come to a practice and see, oh my gosh, they're doing the same things that we're doing.
Yes, and we would have that. We would have, hey, we do that. It's like,
right.
Pretty cool, right? So yes,
Exactly.
that we would have a lot of those comments too, and where kids would make those connections. Yep.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more of the Attack the Rack podcast with today's guest, Dan Van Hekken, talking about building a program. And we are back here in the Get to Two Media Studios, here with the Attack the Rack podcast with our special guest today, Coach Dan Van Hekken, longtime high school varsity girls coach in West Michigan at Holland High School. So obviously we've talked about off-season stuff, summer stuff with your teams, youth camps in the summer, Saturday morning youth stuff, all that building. So Dan, with the last episode, we were talking to Jeff Carlson more specifically on more so player development, and we got into the AAU stuff and the personal trainer stuff that a lot of kids have these days. Have you seen, and over the course of your career, that stuff grew, became more popular? Did you see that having an effect on your role at as a high school varsity coach, trying to build a program? Did you see less of your players because of that stuff?
I would say yes, I saw some of that. Personal trainers, I didn't really see too much of that affecting me negatively. And I say that because I don't know if too many of my players had that. think there was some of it towards the end, but I'm not sure if that, you know, affected me negatively. It doesn't really stick out as a negative. Um, I can see how some of that would, different philosophies and who's right, who's wrong. Um, so I won't get into that because I can't really speak on that personally. However, when we talk about the AAU stuff, I had players that played AAU. Um, I was, I guess, I considered myself somewhat lucky. I didn't have to fight too much of the AAU. It wasn't huge with a lot of the girls that um, played for us. There was some, but I would say, in my experience, those girls did it as an off-season thing. So if they didn't do a spring sport or a fall sport, they sometimes would get with an AAU team, and I was okay with that. Like I think I said it before, in our school we share a lot of athletes, so we do try to encourage them to play a school sport. But sometimes you lose that battle, and so I wasn't upset that they were playing AAU, and I don't think it necessarily affected what I was trying to do, because I think the girls that did play AAU still got with me in the gym and put up shots. Still did their individual stuff that I was offering. What I did fear, and I, have three high school boys as well, and what I kind of did fear and what I saw with some of their friends and even some of the later athletes after I coached was, they were going to AAU tournaments every single weekend, which is, I think, great from a competitive standpoint and keeps you playing. But that's really all they did. And so if you break that down and think about how many meaningful shot attempts or meaningful dribbles or meaningful defensive possessions did they really get in a whole weekend of playing, probably not enough to really make you get to be a better basketball player or to reach your maximum potential. So I think that's the key. I'm not opposed to AAU, but I think when a kid comes back Monday dead tired, I teach some strength classes, dead tired, can't lift because they're tired from traveling, and then they're not doing basketball workouts during their week because they takes them until Tuesday or Wednesday to recover, and then Thursday, Friday they're amping up to go to another AAU tournament, and they think they're getting better. Their parents think they're getting better because they're doing all this playing. And okay, you might get what, 5 to 10 shots a game, probably not making half of them. So are you really getting better as a basketball player? So that's kind of where my questioning, when kids say I'm playing AAU, come in. So does that take a toll on their individual player development?
Yeah, you are spot on with the last episode of the program when we had with Coach Jeff Carlson.
Yeah.
We almost word for word we are saying what we
Mhm.
were talking about. Certainly playing AAU, you're getting better. You're not getting worse, but you do need to find that fine line because, as you mentioned, you play 5 games in a weekend,
Yep.
and you might get up 8 shots and a game, so you're looking at a total of maybe if you're lucky 40 shots in a weekend, where
Yeah.
you can get in the gym on a Saturday morning
Yep.
and not give up your whole weekend. For 2 hours in the gym
Right.
on a Saturday morning, you can get up 500 shots.
Yeah.
So,
And I've seen it too, where, I mean, we could probably talk all day about all this. There are a couple more things. You go to the AAU practice, and the coach, most of the time, I would think, has to kind of scramble to put in some offenses and defenses, and then again, how much individual player development is really happening in those practices, and I've seen it too countless times where a kid just over time just gets sick of the grind of weekend tournaments, and kind of loses their motivation to become a better player, and really don't get better. The trajectory of improvement kind of levels off by the time they're a high school senior.
Hmm. Yeah. So from as we're talking about building a program, a high school basketball program. Again, if your kids are playing AAU, they're doing the personal trainer stuff. It's not like they're not. It's not like they're getting worse. So certainly there's benefits to doing that, but from an actual, if they're getting better, your program's getting better. But there is something to be said where if that stuff is now taking time away from their high school program. We were talking about with Jeff with the camaraderie you build with your teammates
Mm-hmm.
when you're going through a strength and conditioning workout with your varsity coach, or you're going through a small group workout with your varsity coach. That you're building camaraderie and you're getting better together. Whereas, okay, now if you got a 4-player workout and you got 4 players you really want to be there, but one of them's at their AAU practice. Yeah, they're getting better at basketball, but how does that affect the overall growth of your program?
Yeah. I remember a conversation I had with a 5th grade dad. Daughter was in 5th grade, obviously. That's why I say 5th grade. But he was very helpful in our youth programs. We would do a lakeshore league in this area, and he was, the coach for many of the teams, and I was very appreciative of that. And one Saturday, he kind of was brainstorming, and he wanted his daughter to possibly join an AAU program and kind of remove themselves from what we were doing in Hamilton. And I expressed my opinion and said, no, I don't like that idea because um, big picture, that's not really helping our program. And again, he was great for our program because it's hard to get volunteer coaches. It's hard to get dads or moms to help out and do that stuff. And he did do a good job. And but what was going to happen to those other 6, 7, 8 girls that he had been coaching? I don't. Maybe they would have gotten left kind of in the rear view mirror, and so it's just again kind of building program, playing together, winning, losing together through those years. Those middle school years was important, and I saw how important that was. And for I understand there's rare athletes where if you're really good, you need new challenges and you need to get better in that way. Um, this was not that situation. Probably the best player in that grade, but not all stater.
Right.
So
Right.
um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, kind of, I don't know. You started to really turn that hump. And Dan, over the course of your career, we're talking 220 wins. We're talking what, 4 conference championships, 4 district championships, 2 regional championships. Last season of your career, you guys went to the state semifinals.
Mhm.
What about halfway through your career, you guys just started rolling. We're talking 15, 16, 17 wins every year. 2013, 2014 season, school record wins, I believe.
Yep. School record. We hit 21 wins that year, and at that time, that was a school record. Yes.
And then that season looks like you did win a conference championship. You won a district championship, and um, then it really started to roll for you.
Yeah. That. Oh man, it brings back a lot of good memories. I just kind of remember some pictures and videos and the excitement with the team and um, the school, the community, winning that first conference championship, first district for the school. Um, again, that was another group that just kind of got it on and off the court. They meshed. Were competitive. Most the girls understood their role. There's just a difference in teams that win those championships, and some of those things I'm talking about with camaraderie, practice attitude, uh, relationships. Just they get it. It means something to them. I think it's hard to explain a little bit, but that's why it's so rewarding too when it happens, because of all those factors that I'm speaking of. So
Yeah, and once you really started to roll there, I mean, those last 4, 5, 6 years where you were winning conference championships, district championships. You won 23 games in 2017-18. You won 24 games in your last season there, 2018-2019, which was the year you went to the state semis. How rewarding was it to see those? We're talking about building a program, and the girls that you had there, you had those girls since they were in elementary school. That had to have been rewarding to see those girls from just the moment they were introduced to basketball to come all the way through your program and end with such great success.
Yeah, again, I mean, some of the stars have to align with what you've instilled in your program, and they have to have the motivation to do it and the desire, and they have to still put in the time. But yeah, we had a couple girls join us from a home school, but for the most part, yeah, those were all Hamilton girls. We don't have a lot of transferring in and out of Hamilton. It's a very rural community, so it's not like, hey, I'm gonna go play at this school because it's the next city over. So it's very much the girls that grew up in our program and learning transition and motion and man-to-man defense from the time they were in our youth program. So
yeah. So 2004 first season 3-18. Last season 2018-2019 24-1 conference champion, district champion, regional champion, state semifinalist. Definitely went out. Certainly on a high note. One of the most successful, if not the most successful girls, it has to be the most successful girls basketball team we've seen in our area along the lakeshore here. Any itch you got to get back into it, into the coaching game?
Yeah, I do. I won't lie, very much so. Again, I mentioned it earlier. I have 3 boys, and they do go to school in a different district. So that is, as they entered high school, that was kind of the time where I had to step away, because I wanted to see them live. They play basketball, soccer, so it's very time consuming as a coach to do it the right way. Very time consuming. And so, yeah, I do miss it. I think I got out for the right reasons. But there's definitely a very itchy itch to get back into it. And we'll see. I don't know when that would be, if ever. But I do miss it and do think about it a lot. Very thankful to have a job where I'm teaching phys ed and couple 2 or 3 strength and conditioning classes, so I do still get to be a coach in a way, every single day with my athletes from Hamilton. So
all right, well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. It's a lot of fun. Certainly a lot of good memories for me as well, as coached with you a few years, had some success, a lot of great memories to think back on. But Dan, before we get you out of here,
yes.
There's one thing we've been doing with our guests.
Okay.
5 favorite basketball players of all time, and they can be any level. It doesn't just have to be NBA players. talking about Holland High School, Jeff Carlson mentioned one of his top 5 players was Travis Dupree,
Yeah.
Who had a lot of success at Holland High School and Albion College. So again, 5 favorite players, no particular order. Do not have to, like I said, they didn't any level.
Tough question. But I think I'm going to go, since we've talked about the past a lot, I think I'm going to go back to some of the players that inspired me growing up. And that was, no surprise here, Michael Jordan. Just an inspiration, the way he talked basketball, the way he worked at basketball, and obviously the way he played and kind of won. That was inspirational. And early Dennis Rodman was a motivator for me, just the way he worked and did some of the dirty work. And as a role player, I just love the way he hustled and dove all over the floor, and really had pride in the game. And then not a single player, but these guys motivated me, inspired me, was the Fab Five.
Oh yeah.
So just as a group. And then I'm gonna put my parent hat on and just say my own kids.
There you go. Nice.
I enjoy watching them play. Win or loss, it's inspiring to watch them, and yeah, so prideful.
Right. Yep. All right, next question. Favorite, and it might be tough to come up with 5, so let's start 3 to 5 favorite basketball movies.
Whew. Is there a bad one? Hoosiers, obviously. Number 1 for sure. Classic. Gosh, this is tough. Basketball movies. There's some documentaries out there, but I think this is funny because some of my girls would say this as I coach too, loving basketball. But I would put that 3rd or 4th, so that just popped up. One of my favorites, White Men Can't Jump.
Oh yes,
good movie. Classic. There, classic.
Yep.
Just some street ball, yeah. That was a good movie. Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, sure. Hoosiers and White Men Can't Jump.
That's right.
And Love and Basketball. Yeah. All right, Dan, and the one way we like to end the program is with a bonus question specific to you, unrelated to basketball. You are certainly well known in the area as a former player in the area, a coach in the area, but there's something else that you're well known for in the West Michigan area, and that is DJing.
DJing, yes.
We got to get you back on the program and talk about music and DJing. Sure. Bonus question: 5 favorite DJs, 3 to 5.
Sure.
And maybe you can also tell us kind of what genre they play.
Fair enough. That's probably a good thing to add. Before I get into that, can I add one more thing to your last question about the basketball movies?
Absolutely.
It's not a movie, but again, reminiscing, there was a VHS tape. I might still have it somewhere. It was called Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers.
Yes.
And I know you watched it.
Oh, we used to watch
Cousin
that.
Andy would watch it. We would watch that thing all the time. It just literally was a VHS tape with some dunks and some some of the guys were mic'd up or whatever. Just funny stuff that we enjoyed. It's probably on YouTube somewhere, so look it up. Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers.
If I can find it, I will post a link to it in the description. Yeah. Hey, one other thing, this game we're watching here, 93-94 Holland High School versus Ottawa Hills, I'm going to post a link to that in the description as well.
Nice. Let's get some more views.
Yeah, but it's actually been viewed almost 1,000 times.
That's crazy.
It's a great game in the history of West Michigan basketball. But yeah, Dazzling Dunks and basketball bloopers. I'm glad you brought that up. That brings back a lot of great memories. Definitely, we wore that VHS out for sure, and I think to this day we still talk about it. And
wow, one-liners.
One-liners. We use the one-liners all the time. So, all right. So Dan, back to this bonus question.
Okay.
3 to 5 favorite DJs.
Oh, okay.
And
so
genre
they
spin.
I think because this is another great question, and we could probably spend a lot of time on this. Can I break this up into live DJs and maybe give your viewers some DJ podcasts even that I listen to?
Absolutely.
Okay, so because there's a lot of DJs I have not seen live, but would like to. But I think we're gonna go kind of old school with some of my favorites and DJs that I look up to. One is a guy from Chicago, DJ Bad Boy Bill.
Classic.
He is considered a house music legend in Chicago, and he's worldwide now. But he was an inspiration growing up. Along with Chicago, being so close to Chicago, we heard a lot about these DJs growing up. This guy named Julian Jumpin' Perez does anything from house music to old school hip hop and R&B.
Freestyle.
A little bit of freestyle, yep. So if you hear these guys, they're definitely veterans and know their craft, and there's just a difference when you hear them. Actually, Julian Jumpin' Perez is now, he's still a DJ, but is now in the political game as well. He's running for something around Chicago. Yeah. So, and then just some podcasts that or mixes that I listen to that DJs put out is DJ Ron, RAWN, a lot of 80s and 90s as well. DJ Vice, VICE. The guy I really enjoy listening to. Free Jack is oh boy, I think it's FREEJAK maybe. You can look him up. House music there as well. Let's see. Joe Maz is another guy. MAZ. A lot of these are more top 40, up-tempo, house music vibes. So if you need something to maybe do your workout to or clean or while you're driving, those are all good things I suggest.
And you put out mixes as well. You have is it a Mixcloud?
I do have a Mixcloud,
yeah. Countless mixes on there, right?
It's been a while, but yes, you should be able to find quite a few mixes.
If I can, if it allows me to, I'll post a link to your DJ Mixcloud page as well in the description. Wow, talking about music and DJing is really just getting me excited. We're gonna have to get you back here and do an episode about music DJing.
Oh, we could talk for days about coaching, talk for days about music as well. Absolutely. So yes, another day.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy watching your boys play this year over at Holland High School, and we will get you back soon to talk music.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun.